Hey guys, welcome to this session. Right now in this session we'll be looking at more about file permissions only. So first let us look at the folder called sudoers. So this particular folder sudoers will have the information of which users have the super user privileges. So basically we cannot look into /etc/sudoers. So if you are a super user, basically you can do. So once you have looked into it, let's say you have 10 different users and only in that 2 users have super user permissions and you want to provide super user privileges to a third person. So using vi sudo, you can basically change those permissions. So right now let's open our virtual machine and check who has the super user privileges. Okay, so right now we are in root. Let me exit it. So yeah, so I'm going back. Okay, right now we can check that. So now let's do a cat. So I don't have permissions, etc sudoers, and now you can see all the contents of it. Going up, let us look at the user. So all of these are basically comments. So you can see there is a group wheel and allows people in group wheel to run all commands, and then there is users, there is other users. So basically under this currently there are no defaults. There are some defaults you can see here: colors, display, host name, mail, ps1 ps2, username, lang, but there is no particular information about the sudoers, that is who can sudo and who cannot, who has super privileges and who doesn't. So for that we'll have to look more into this. So coming down, let me hit vi sudo /etc/sudoers nano/etc/sudoers. And now I'm inside the file. We can see these are all comments. Everything is a comment here. See, drivers is commented, defaults visible, pw path, always set home, match group by group id. So these are some default options provided here. Adding home to the environment variable, secure the path. So you can see here root all equal to all, or basically this means the root user has permissions to run every single command. So even when I created IntelliPat is again a user with all permissions, so we don't need to do anything else. So under IntelliPat you'll just have to type in sudo su and become the super user. Once you become the super user, you have again all the root privileges. So this is the sudoers file. Now going back to the slides. So we saw the sudoers file where we saw root has all the permissions to execute every single command. In that particular place, you can edit it like let's say I've provided IntelliPat 2 and I've provided all equal to all. So basically I've provided every single command permissions to IntelliPat 2 user. So that's how you can use /etc/sudoers. Now file permissions. So let's get back. So you see this example first. So I'm doing an ls-l and it's showing the files and documents, the files and directories under my home folder, and you can see this particular part. So that's what I'm highlighting here. These are the permissions. Now going back, let us do an LSL. So now you can see these are the files, these are the documents. Sorry, again I'm repeat. So now you can see these are the files and these are the directories. So how you can understand that these are directories and these are not? So not just with the color coding, you can see this D in front of directories, right? So that is one particular thing which you can see whether this particular desktop is a file or a directory. If there is D in front of this part, then it is a directory. If it is empty, then it is a file. So right now coming to permissions. So these are permissions. We'll be looking into these right now. So I think you've got an idea of how it looks. Now going back to the slides. So yeah, so now you have 4 different paths in a file permission. The first part is the file type. If it is a hyphen, if it is a dash, then it is a file, a normal file. It can be any different file with any different extension, but it is a file. But if there is a D in front of it, basically it is a directory. It is not a file, it is a directory or a folder under which you can create multiple files or other directories. So that is the first option. The second option is user permissions. Third is group permissions, and fourth is other permissions. So user permissions, again I told you there are three different types in permissions itself, in ownerships itself. The first type is user, second is group, third is other. So now we'll be looking at RWX as well. So first, user permissions is this particular part, the first part, going back to the control. So you can see file type, user permissions, RWX, these are the user permissions, and again RWX, these are the group permissions, again the RWX, this is the other permissions for processes. So now again going back to the slides. So this is the way it looks. This is the format of a file permission. Now coming down, what are the meanings of these characters? First R means readable, W means writable, X means executable, and dash or hyphen means empty. There is no permission or there is nothing over there. So first R, in the sense it's readable. So first you saw here RWX under user permissions. This means a user, that particular user or any user can read, write and execute this file. And then there is W, so you've seen this. Next there was group permissions R minus X. So let's say this particular file can be read as well as can be executed by users in any group, but they'll not be able to write into that file. Only this particular user can write into that file. None of the other users inside any other groups can write into that file. They can only read it or execute it. And again, last one is other permissions. A process can either read it or execute it, but it cannot write inside it. But if it also has a RWX, other permissions, that particular process can also write inside this file or directory. So this is the meanings of these characters. Now coming down, hands-on, users, groups and file permissions. So we've created users and groups, and as well as we saw about file permissions, but we'll look more into them. So now let's get back. Let's get back and do some operations here. So first let's check whether, so you can see IntelliPad and read here, but for more information about groups you'll have to go to the folder etc. So under etc you have group file here, and you should also have you should have a file about users as well. I think it's login.dev. Yeah, it's login.dev. So let's do a cat for both. First login.dev. No, so basically login.devs shows you the basic information. So coming down, let me explain you what exactly is login.devs. So you see UID min and UID max. So these are for users who get created, and these are the ID values for those users. So let's say I'm creating 1000 users, then the first user will start from the number 1000. Just assuming first user will start from number 1000, 1001, 1002 up till 1999. So the value starts at 1000 and the maximum value can go up to 60,000. So you can create these many users and the user ID range is from 1000 to 60,000, not from 0 to 60,000. And for the system accounts, the value is 201 to 999. And again, coming back to group, even for group it's 1000 to 60,000, and system accounts it's 201 and to 999. So yeah, so this is one thing. And another thing is cat group. So you can see in the last demo, I think I created group 1, and you can see group 1 over here, and this is group 1's user ID. So now how can you find out whether a particular group is a user created group or system created group? So just look at, so this was the user which I created, first user which I created, and look at the group ID. It's 1000, and this is the second user 1001. This is the third group which is 1002. So as I told you, it starts from 1000 and then 1001, 1002, and it goes ahead. And you can see here everything else. So coming down, so all of these 996, 995, 994, all of these groups are basically system groups, and we don't need to do anything about them. This is what I wanted to show. Even wheel, under wheel there is IntelliPad alone, the administrator or the root user, but these are the latest created groups. This VBox SF was basically the additions which we made, the guest additions to make the screen bigger. So right now IntelliPad and group 1 is available. So we've seen that. Now going back to my home folder. Okay, so now let's create another user, IntelliPad 3, and let's add a comment to that particular user. So this sudo user add IntelliPad 3, and before this I'm going to use the minus C option. So the minus C option, after minus C option, you can basically enter a message. So you can basically enter a message and that will also be stored in the etc folder. So right now I'm just going to add a message here from see the third user and create. So I've created the user. So yes, I've created this user. Now how to check whether this particular message has been added? So one thing you can do is you can basically check in the /etc/password folder. So now let us do a grep over there. Grep intellipaat3/etc/password, and you can see it over here, intellipaat3 and x, and you can see the ID, user ID, which is 1002, and then the third user, you can see the message added over here, and the path is home/intellipaat3 and bin/bash. A shell is also created for this user. So this is how you interactively create a user, and again you can do the same things for creating a group as well. So we already added a group called group1, so that's what I was doing. So let's see it once again. Let's grab group1 from etc/group, and you can see grp11002, which is basically its group ID. So now let's remove this group. So to remove the group, it's group del, sudo group del, and group name. So it's done. So now you cannot see any output because that group has been deleted, and this is how you delete a group. So now let's create a group and add multiple users to it. So sudo add group. I'm going to name it as group2. Sorry, it is group add, not add group, group add. So I've created the group. So now sudo g password and then add intellipaat3. So yeah, I've done a small mistake. That is, it is sudo g password minus a is for adding users. I've provided the username, and then we'll have to provide the group name as well, which is group2. So adding user intellipaat3 to group2. So it's done. So one more thing you can do is you can add multiple users as well. So intellipaat and intellipaat. Okay, so it is taking them as a single user. Okay, sorry, I'll so again, one more mistake I've done is that to basically add a single user, it's minus a. To add multiple users is minus m, and then it's normally like this. So now again it's added. So intellipaat is added, intellipaat2 is added, intellipaat3 is added to the same group. So this is what I wanted to show you: creating groups, deleting groups, adding users. So you can do that. And then one more thing, g password. So you can see the options over here. You can use -r to delete the group's password, and you can basically use -d to remove a user from the group. So now let's do that. Sudo g password -d, and I'm going to remove Intelli from group 2. So removing Intellipaat from group 2, and it's done. So now we've removed a user, added 2 users. Now let us check who are in this group. So to check that, do a grep of the group name inside the etc group folder. So you can see Intellipaat2 is the user which is added to this particular group, and let us check group 1, and group 1 is not available. Let us check Intellipaat, and under Intellipaat you can see Intellipaat is added to wheel. There is a user called Intellipaat, there's a group called Intellipaat, Intellipaat2, Intellipaat3, and Intellipaat2 user is also added to a group called group2, which we just created. So now again it's very simple to delete a group. It's sudo group del group name, and it will get deleted. Now if I do a grep of that group name in the etc group file, so now you cannot see anything, so because that group is not available. So guys, thank you for this particular session. Meet you in the next session.